It's well documented that the path to the modern era of the NBA was blazoned by Steph Curry. By shattering every three-point record on the books season after season, he was rightfully crowned as the poster child for unleashing a whole new off-the-dribble long-distance shooting attack that had a number of guards follow suit. But was he really the first to do this? I won't blame you if you don't know that back in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a guard who could light it up in much the same way as Curry, from deep and off the bounce. And it's an important story to tell, since his name should not be forgotten in the annals of basketball history, as his contributions to the game are profound and deserve real attention. Let's go back to 1988, where a freshman at LSU named Chris Jackson burst onto the scene, dropping over 30 a game on a decent team that won 20 games that year. But what you'll notice right off the bat is how quickly he attacked, didn't wait for the offense to set up, and just hunted buckets off the dribble. Coming off pick and rolls might look like the norm now, but let me assure you, in college, back then, hardly anybody ever ran them. And if they did, you'd never see a three-point shot taken. Never. And here comes Jackson raining down threes, long twos, floaters, and finishing strong at the rim even though he's shorter than I am. I had the pleasure of interviewing Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf as part of the Big Three playoffs, where he was an instrumental part of the three-headed monsters at age 50, proving that guys who can get buckets can always get buckets. So I'm your age. I grew up the same time. I was a good shooter from three, but we would get benched and cut from the team if we shot a three off the dribble. So I'm curious, why did they allow you to do that? And did you feel like a pioneer even back then?
Well, I mean, I was playing that way coming up through junior high and high school.
Really?
So when they're used to seeing that, it's easier to allow a guy to do it. I tell guys all the time, if you're going somewhere and people don't know you, people are watching when you think that they aren't watching you. So even in practice, get in practice, lean before you start playing with somebody, because you have to train a person's eyes to get used to seeing it. If a coach is not used to seeing it, all of a sudden you pull it and you miss, it doesn't look normal. But if he see you working on that stuff in practice and all of a sudden you do it every now and then, it's like, okay, you've trained his eyes to look for those things, and now it doesn't look so alien to him.
His college exploits led him to break several freshman scoring records, first-team All-American and SEC Player of the Year 2 years in a row. And that led the Denver Nuggets to draft him with the third overall pick behind Derek Coleman and Gary Payton. And while his Denver team led the league in three-point attempts that year, it was only 12.9 a game. And Jackson was stuck behind another point guard who dominated the ball and actually shot a lot of threes for any era in Michael Adams. The irony that Jackson got to the one team willing to spread the floor and let him shoot threes off the dribble, only to already have that guy playing over 35 minutes a game, is all kinds of unfair. The Nuggets traded Adams away the next season, but started poor shooting Winston Garland instead, leaving Jackson to get a meager 19 minutes a game. It was at this point that Jackson changed his name to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf and converted to Islam. While the NBA had seen players do this in the past, most notably Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, this would become a source of controversy later. By his third year, the Nuggets finally saw the light and installed him as a starter, where he promptly led the team in scoring. And here is where he had a 3-year run of off-the-dribble highlights that we just hadn't seen much from any player, much less the point guard. Back then, point guards were supposed to be pass first, and rarely did you see winning teams have points that led the team in field goal attempts. By 1995-96, he was officially unguardable, handing a great Jazz team and John Stockton 51 points from all over the floor, including off-the-dribble threes as well as kickouts from the post. No matter where the defense was, it didn't matter. Then, he led his team to one of only 10 victories opponents had over arguably the best team ever assembled in the 72-10 Chicago Bulls, filling it up for 32 points against an assortment of players, including Michael Jordan. And they even unleashed him from three-point land a little bit. His career-high 5.4 attempts served to open up the floor for everyone on the team, and without question, this is what led him to his best overall season of his career, handing out a career-high 6.8 assists while also nailing 39% of his threes. If you're enjoying Can't Muster, this should have been the beginning of a 7 or 8 year run of All-Star games, accolades, and the inspiration for a generation of young guards unleashing off-the-dribble shots from behind the arc. Instead, he's largely forgotten, barely a footnote in the oral history of the NBA. How could we have gone from a singular talent who was a better shooting version of Allen Iverson to a player who was out of the league within 2 years? For several years, Abdul-Rauf did not stand for the national anthem before games. His faith in Islam demonstrated a strong dedication to living a principled life. In March of 1996, a reporter did a story on this, and it became a sensation. And rather than honoring his constitutional right to express how he felt, the NBA suspended him for a game, the Nuggets benched him, and within 2 years, he was completely out of the league. While we are blessed to be able to still see him filled up with the big three, looking in good enough shape that you might think he could still get on an NBA court, let's not forget the legacy he left. As one of the first guards to utilize the pull-up jump shot from distance to level the playing field for all the smaller guys out there, making them as valuable, if not more, than the traditional big men that the NBA has valued for so long. Who knows? Maybe it was playing against him that made Steve Kerr believe in the off-the-dribble three and unleash this weapon in the Warriors' offense. And the next time you see Steph Curry hit a three-pointer and celebrate on the way back down, give a salute to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf while you're at it. And don't let anyone forget who he was and what he stood for.